Hey guys, so here is part 3 of the 3.2 day 3 notes. Once again, we're going to be doing word problems. Now these next 2 examples, they're going to be dealing with perimeter, so they're going to be very similar to each other. Okay, so it says the perimeter of a pool table is 912 centimeters. The width is 152 centimeters shorter than the length. Find the dimensions, or length and width, of the pool table. Okay, so what we need to do is, once again, we're kind of figuring out the same thing as we did. The first thing we're going to do is define our variables. So we are looking for length and for width. So you can do X and Y. I'm just going to use L to represent length and W to represent width. Okay? Those are like the 2 easiest. Okay, so now write 2 equations. As I've always said, you will always write 2 equations. Okay? Okay, now before I write them, I'm going to draw a pool table. So remember, a pool table is going to be rectangular. Okay? So we have length and width. I'm going to say this is my width, this is my length. If you do it opposite, that is okay. It doesn't really matter as long as you define the variables. So from here then, so with our L and W, that's going to represent our length and width, and we know inside is going to be the perimeter. So remember, because we have a rectangle, to find perimeter, we add up all the sides, right? Okay, so here's our pool table. Okay, so they do tell us, so let's kind of underline some important information. They do tell us the perimeter of the pool table is 912 centimeters. So I'm going to put that there. Okay. So as I said, to find perimeter of a rectangle, we would add up all the sides. So that would be length plus our width plus our width. But how could we write that as an equation? Well, if we have 2 lengths, I can write that as 2L. And if I have 2 widths, that means I have 2W. And that can equal our perimeter, which in this case is going to be 912. Okay, now from there, we do still have more important information. Then it says the width is 152 centimeters shorter than the length, okay? So we're going to use that sentence and write it as an equation. So shorter means we want to subtract, right? It's going to be smaller. So we're going to use kind of the words to help us write this equation. So we're going to start with W, because that's our width, okay? Now, anytime you see the word like is, that's going to represent our equal sign, okay? So we'll have width equals, now, 152 centimeters shorter than the length. So we think shorter, that means smaller. And so smaller means we're going to subtract. Now, it means like you're getting bigger, of course you're adding. So we're going to use L because we use that for our length. So I'm going to have L minus 152, okay? Okay, now that we have our 2 equations, our next part is going to basically be solving for the variables, okay? So we're going to solve using substitution or elimination. Once again, you get to pick whichever you feel comfortable with and whichever you think is going to be easier. So I'm going to rewrite my 2 equations here. So 2L plus 2W equals 912, and W equals L minus 152, okay? I'm going to go ahead and use substitution, because if you notice in my second equation, W is already solved for. So I think that's going to be the easiest way, so I don't have to do any multiplication or anything. So I'm going to take my L minus 152 and plug it in the other equation, because if you re-plug it into the same one, well, that's not going to work, right? Okay, so re-plugging into there, I now have 2L, then plus 2 parentheses, L minus 152, equals 912, okay? I'm going to take my 2, distribute it to both of the numbers below or behind it. I get 2L plus 2L minus, and of course you can plug this into your calculator, 2 times 152, we get 304. Now we combine like terms. My two L's are going to be now 4L, and then minus 304 equals 912. I'm now going to add 304 to both sides. So now I have 4L equals, and once again you can just plug this into your calculator. 912 plus 304, that gives us 1,216. And so now from there, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 4. Please plug this into your calculator, and when we do, we get 304, okay? So we know our length is 304. Now we need to find what the width is. So in order to do that, I'm going to take my 304 and plug it into one of the two equations. Well, I'm going to plug it into the easier one, which is going to be that W equals L minus 152, okay? Okay, so we already know the length is 304, and I do subtract it from 152. Once again, please use your calculator. Makes it a lot easier. And we get width equals 152. Now, our last part, just like we've done in the last two examples, is to define our answers. So basically meaning, okay, what does that 304 and the 152 really represent, right? So basically, our length is going to be 304, and our width is going to be 152. So I'm just going to say length equals. Now, we need to go back up to the very tip top, because we have to see, is there a unit here? Which if we look, it looks like they told us perimeter was centimeters and centimeters. So we have to make sure we use centimeters as our unit here. So the length is 304 centimeters, while the width is 152 centimeters. When we look at our answers, they do make sense. They're not negatives, because can we have negative numbers for length and width? No. Okay. And if we kind of use them or plug them back into both equations, we will get true statements. So this will be your final answer here. Okay? Okay, make sure you watch the last part of our 3.2 Day 3 note.